So August 1st again, here is another video of flower gardens and other parts of the property that weren't in the vegetable garden video. So I'm at the front of the house with the what I call the temporary garden. It's all annuals. This garden is actually pretty colorful considering that we haven't had any rain. I'm not sure if I have an occupant in the birdhouse at the moment, but I did earlier this season. So all of these flowers have all been started by seed, and it's looking pretty good actually up here. And then the same thing across the other side of the front of the house. A little bit droopy, but it's pretty hot out here already today, and as you can see, the ground is pretty crispy looking. Let's see if I can get in to show you my what I call the poison flower. I grew Ballerina datura this year. All parts of the plant are toxic, which is why it's only in this front garden here and not elsewhere, because I don't want my dogs to accidentally get into it. They're pretty good about not bugging with flowers and stuff, but I just didn't want to take that chance. But they are pretty, so I wanted to give it a try and see how it would go. So I'm coming down across the front yard. The shade garden, this is the driest I have ever seen the shade garden. Hostas and stuff are still doing pretty well, but it's really dry. The only reason the grass is green here is because this area is usually pretty swampy, and I can feel how hard it is under my feet, but at least you know, it had a little bit of a buffer when we didn't get any rain. I'm gonna walk towards the bird bath here, and you'll see a number of bees have stopped in to have a drink. There's been a lot of bearding going on in front of the hives lately, and I think that's apparently that's normal because they're hot, and so they're just hanging out outside the front. But we're going to check them later today and see how they're filling up the honey supers. The black-eyed Susans are just starting to come into bloom, so probably the next time I do a video, there'll be a sea of yellow across the front here. I'm not sure if I actually put this in the first video when I did the flower gardens, but this is the other side of the garden. It's what I kind of refer to as the echinacea garden, because it's pretty much all echinacea now. But again, this is really good bee food for your pollinators, and we actually have one right now that's in the flower right there. You can see him down there having, or her probably, having a snack. Echinacea all across, some hydrangea at the back. We'll go into the backyard now. Came through this gate a little earlier with to do the vegetable garden tour. But we're just gonna walk around across over to the flower gardens. I have some volunteer sunflowers here. It's quite interesting because the sunflowers that I actually planted really didn't do well. Most of them got eaten by things, and the ones that I didn't plant are doing great. I do currently have an occupant in this birdhouse. I'm disturbing them regularly when I am watering plants. Again, this is still pretty empty this year, but I'm just happy that this, as many of these plants are actually still alive and flowering as they are. It's been tough. We'll have to see what dies off and doesn't come back next year, because I'm sure that this drought is going to have an impact on the perennials for the next season as well. No occupant in this one, but we did have wasps in there, and Chris had to spray that, so I'll have to get in there and clean it out at the end of the season. My plans for these trellises didn't actually really pan out due to the weather. They were supposed to have these annual vines, morning glory on one, and this canary bird vine on this one, and they just really didn't grow. And I can't say I really blame them. It's been hot and dry and just really not the best growing season. It would be perfect if we had some rain. Oh, I think we have a bee in here having a drink as well in this bird bath. If we had a little bit of rain, this heat would be fantastic for the plants, but without any rain, not so much. So lots of color in this garden though. I like to plant a bunch of zinnia seeds in here when I start planting things in the spring, as well as calendula and a few other annuals, just for some bursts of color. And I think it's a good thing this year because there's not, the perennials are really not very showy, and when they do make an appearance, they aren't here for that long. So I think I will continue to make some annuals part of this garden. But it's doing okay considering, and you know, from a distance, it doesn't look terribly unhealthy. It's only when you get up close you can see how dry things really are. Coming through into our bee garden and our bee area, you'll see what I mean about the bearding, although it's not too bad yet today. So along here, the wildflowers plantings are, they seem to be doing okay. I haven't weeded in here at all. I'm just kind of letting it do its thing. Some of the weeds that you do get in your garden are actually good bee food, and since this garden is for them, I'm probably not going to do too much with that garden. I'll come a little bit closer to the bees, and I'll show you what I mean about the bearding on the front of the hive. We've got a couple honey supers on each one of these hives now, so I think that's as close as I'm going to get with shorts and t-shirt on. But you can see them hanging out at the front, and that's normal. They're just there because it's they're trying to maintain a good temperature within the hive itself, and a lot of these are foragers anyways, and they're coming and going as they look for food. Over here, exciting later in the week on the 6th, our day-old chicks will be arriving, so they won't be outside for a while, but I've been starting to work on getting the enclosure ready for them. This is Chris's hops garden. He's had a little bit of issues with some plant disease back here as well. We've got beans. The beans are doing really well in here. These are all baking beans. They seem to not mind that it's a bit shady back here, maybe because the soil stays damper a little bit longer, and in the other gardens that's not the case. So these hops are getting quite tall. Some of them, that one is pretty much reached the top of the trellis that it's climbing up. I don't know much about hops. I'll just have to do some reading. It's really Chris's thing because he's gotten into making beer, so he thought it might be nice to actually use his own hops in making the beer. So I'm just letting him kind of manage this garden. I threw a few extra things in here that I just had spares of because he had the space for them. But a lot of his hops are doing quite well. Some of them are maybe a little bit more susceptible to things than others, so he's been keeping an eye on it and keeping this area watered, and he put in some irrigation for it as well. But it's doing okay. I think I might actually expand over on this side next year and maybe try putting some other things over on this side. I have to do a major crop rotation for my vegetable garden, just because we've had such bad bugs that I don't really have a choice to move some things around to try to manage that a bit. So I might actually try to expand over onto this side of the property a little bit. The problem is that if we have a wet year, nothing is going to like it over there because it's very damp on a wet year. This year it's actually probably perfect, but if we get lots of rain, it grows mushrooms really well over there. But I wouldn't maybe say anything else. So we'll come across now over into the cut flower garden. And there was a little bit of a shot of this garden earlier in the vegetable garden tour. And sounds like I'm wheezing a little bit. This is my allergy season. I have no idea what I'm actually allergic to, but every year at this time of year, I'm allergic to something. So the cut flower garden again is in the blazing full sun, so it's having a little bit of issues this year, but there is some nice color in there. Some snapdragons have just shown up and some zinnias, and I have a really nice dahlia that just bloomed yesterday right there. I think the plant's supposed to be quite a bit taller than that for the size of flower, but whatever, it is what it is, right? And along here for the flower boxes by the gazebo, they didn't really fill in as much as I'd hoped, but they're pretty and there's lots of color. No inhabitant in that birdhouse, but that's okay. At the back of the house again is the herb garden. Oh, I have some pots I have forgotten to wash up from things I put in the garden yesterday. Herbs are doing okay. Nothing has really died off. But most herbs are pretty hardy anyways. Pan around a little bit over here to this side of the gazebo. The mint's doing great. I should be cutting some of that shortly to dry for tea. I'd have a lot more time to do this if I didn't have a job, I think, but you know, the job sort of pays for the habit of doing all of this. The cottage garden in front of the gazebo. I think this garden's quite happy for the shade that it does have. One little flower over there. Not too much blooming in here right now. The lilies are just finishing. But again, this is supposed to be largely just ground covers and shrubs anyways, with the odd splash of color. And one little tiny sunflower. I had planted a whole bunch of these and they all got eaten by something. Coming around the front of the screen house. This area hasn't really filled in too much. So when I did the video of this section, I believe it was about almost a month ago now, not much had really started to fill into this area, and I haven't done anything with it because I am planning on putting the fall planting bulbs in here. So I've just been trying to, you know, give this stuff a bit of water now and then, and but some of it is actually starting to spread out into the space that I've made for it. I don't do any annuals down here just because I don't get to water this area very often and they tend to not survive. There's some morning glories in here, but I didn't plant them this year. I planted them last year, so they must have reseeded themselves. So this is a morning glory right here. It doesn't have any flowers on it at the moment. Well, it is also not morning anymore, but they planted themselves. So, and these members of the Black-Eyed Susan family, they are not Black-Eyed Susans. I can't remember at the moment what they're actually called. These are pretty versatile flowers. They bloom for basically the entire summer, which is great. It's a nice splash of color, and they will tolerate a wide range of conditions as well. So it's all always good to find things that you can transplant and spread around your property. These ones I just, you know, dig up a little bit of them and move them around. Can collect the seeds in the fall as well. I have some poppies that have gone to seed, so I have to remember to get over and collect those because I can't remember if those ones were annuals or if they were perennials. I have some of both, so I'll go and collect the seeds anyways because they were quite lovely when they bloomed, so I wouldn't mind having some more of them around the property, and I'll plant those again in the spring. And so basically, that's pretty much it for the flowers and the other gardens, aside from the vegetable gardens. Again, this time of year, if I looked at a video from last year, plants would be much more filled out, and they would look a lot happier, and there'd be a whole lot less disease. But then again, we also had a whole lot more rain. So thanks for watching. Hope you're enjoying your gardening. If this is your first garden season and you're having a difficult time with the weather and also with the pests and the bugs, I hope that you do try again next year, because it's not always this hard. Sometimes, you know, you don't have to battle nature quite as much as you have had to do this year, and you know, so it's much more of enjoyable in those cases. But don't give up. It's not like this every year. I'm certainly not going to give up. I got addicted to this a number of years ago, and I don't see that ending anytime soon. So enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye for now.